Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I am your host, as always, Jay Villain, aka That Villain J. And tonight, we have a very interesting treat for you. I'm doing a little bit of theory crafting. Tomorrow, I'm kind of putting this up to hype everybody up. Tomorrow, early access, 24 hours. I've got complete access to all of ELDRAINE. So if you want to check that out and see these decks that I'm theory crafting, that I'm building right now, live and in person, come join us. Join us on our stream, twitch.tv/thatvillainej for a live streaming goodness. Hit the bell and follow us on YouTube. We'll be streaming both on YouTube and Twitch, because right now we're going to be looking at how to theory craft, what we think we're going to be building. My best kind of abstract ideas about a fairy Dimir deck of the new ELDRAINE stuff. So I don't have it up right now. I have kind of the rough framework that I've been building with here, kind of what we already have existing for the previous cards and what we can add for the new cards. So we're going to go back and forth looking between this and AetherHub, which is where I put all of my put all of my deck builds right there. You can actually take a look at the full card list. Actually, let me show you real quick right here. Boom, there it is. So on AetherHub, you can see we actually have the full card list, including the new cards like Likeness and all that stuff like that. So this is going to be a short one because we can't actually play this deck, but we can take a look at kind of the underlying ideas that I've had. So as a Dimir, kind of life drain, heavy on the flyers, card draw, card superiority, a little bit of denial, I'm kind of going generally pretty broad with this one. I think it's going to be interesting, and I'm not saying that I'm married to this one, but basically this is kind of my idea anyways. So we're going to, of course, start with cut down some familiar stuff, removing creatures, early creatures. We do take a little bit, we're not super aggro, so cut down is good early removal, but we can do any. Combat research, I think, is going to probably be making a comeback with all the card draw, with legendaries that we have. That's going to be a good one right there. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. That's going to be very useful with Fairy Vandal coming forward, because whenever you draw a card, your second card each turn, put a 1/1 counter on Fairy Vandal. Growing and growing and growing. Pretty much every single creature we have is flying. So we are kind of pushing high end on flying right there. That is really going to be our win con, swinging in with flying and life drain. We're also going with Fairy Mastermind, which I have never really played with before. I actually have none of him crafted. He's flash, he's flying, he's a 2/1, and whenever an opponent draws their second card each turn, we draw a card. Then we can force each player to draw a card if we want to. So we can actually force card draw on somebody else. It's fun to play this with Sheldra and do other stuff with it, but pretty cool overall. The art is Yuta Takahashi, he's the world champ. So another fairy one right there. Now these cheap 2-drop fairies are all going to kind of lead into who is our, functionally the commander, the head, the captain of the deck, is going to be Obira, Dreaming Duelist. I really like this new card right here. This is the one from ELDRAINE. Actually, as a matter of fact, let me zoom in a little bit so you can get a nice tight view of this. Okay, so we have Obira, Dreaming Duelist. This is going to be key right here, because she is a 2-drop, 2/2 fairy warrior. She's a legendary creature, which makes her a great target for combat research, because then she'll get +1/+1 and has ward. And whenever a fairy enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life. So really effective when you consider we have like 20 fairies that can enter. We can really augment the amount of damage that we're doing, the amount of life drain that we're doing with Obira, Dreaming Duelist. And as only a common, as an uncommon card, we're really not breaking the bank for building a new deck. So this is kind of, I'm trying to make it kind of budget conscious, that maybe going into this new set, you're not going to have a lot of wilds or something like that. The only new rare that we're going to have is going to be Likeness Looter. This is going to be a really interesting one here. This is a 1/1, this is a 1/1 fairy shapeshifter. You can draw a card and discard a card. Again, we're kind of focusing on card superiority here. That is going to be kind of our key. So card draw and loose, and then of course we can pay X and it becomes a copy of target creature in your graveyard with a mana value X, accepted as flying, and this ability activate only sorcery. So we can get up to some trickery with this one later on. We can definitely do some more shenanigans with it. But it also lets us bring back Fairy Mastermind, Fairy Vandal, focus on getting those other things out there. And again, all these fairies are just 2-drops, so we're moving pretty quickly when it comes to hitting people on the high end right there. Hitting people pretty quickly with flyers, so it can be pretty effective. Aside from combat research, we're gonna have Otherworldly Gaze for a Surveil. Basically, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put any one of them. It's Surveils 3, basically, which is you look at the top 3, it's like Scry. You look at the top 3, put the rest in your graveyard and the rest in the top of your library in any order. It lets you kind of filter out some stuff. You can either put it in your graveyard, bring it back, which is very nice with Likeness Looter because we can put a card that is potentially we just want to copy. If we have Likeness Looter, we put it in the graveyard and draw something else. That's a good one to put in there. Surveil, I think, works well with fairies. Make Disappear for a little bit of counterspelling for their high end. Go for the Throat for alternative removal. Halo Forager is a card that I don't think got a lot of attention here. When it comes into the battlefield, you may pay X. When you do, you may cast an instant or sorcery card from mana value X from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell, you put in graveyard X on instead. So with kind of a kicker here, we can recast Otherworldly Gaze, Combat Research. Oh, that's not an instant or sorcery. We can recast Cut Down or Go for the Throat or something like that. Or even Rankle's Prankle and the End. Here are the other high-end cards that we're putting in here. I really like Rankle's Prankle. Rankle is a fairy. He's an evil fairy, so we like him. Choose one or more, meaning that for 4 mana, you can choose all of these if you want. Each player discard 2 cards, which is very nice for the discard ability on the high end. Each player loses 4 life, or each player sacrifices 2 creature. You can force all of those. So 4 mana, you're getting lose 4 life, sacrifice 2 creatures, and discard 2 cards. That is a hard hit. That is another rare, but man, I think that's going to be pretty common in mono black decks. I definitely think that's going to be something we're going to be running into a lot more. And of course, the End, which was one of my favorite ones on the top 10 podcast that we did. If you looked at the Black Council podcast, where we actually picked our top 12 cards coming out. For 4, as an instant, you exile a creature or planeswalker. You search its controller's graveyard, hand, and library for any number of cards with the same name as that permanent, and exile them. Then shuffle and draw cards for each X card exiled that way. So if they have Sheoldred and you want it gone from the game, it's gone from the game. If they have Wandering Emperor and you want it gone from the game, it's gone from the game. Extremely effective removal there for only 4. Really nice. As instant speed as well. Then I have to kind of do Invasion of Eldraine, of course, on its back end here. Prickle Fairies on the back end. And of course, Eldraine, it's sideways here, unfortunately. What it does say is it's a 1 black and 3. It has an invasion cost of 4. When Invasion of Eldraine enters the battlefield, target opponent discards 2 cards. So it forces discard 2 cards, which fits nicely with Rankle. Then if you kill it, if you do the 4 damage to it, at the beginning of you get the Prickle Fairies, and those are 2/2 flying. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, that player has 2 or fewer cards in hand. It deals 2 damage to them. So forcing discard, keeping cards out of their hand, extremely useful for kind of getting that drain effect on the high end here, and just hitting them for little bits, just a whole swarm of little bits of damage overall, I think is going to be pretty effective. I do think it's going to be pretty effective at kind of killing out your opponent. So this is kind of the idea. I'm not able to play it yet, but I want you to remember, we are going to be playing early access tomorrow. I'm going to build this deck tomorrow. Boom, boom, boom. It's going to be here. It's going to be live and in person. We are going to make it. We are going to run it along with a bunch of other decks. We're going to run Rats. We're going to run Knights. All the major ones. Azorius, not Azorius, but Orzhov. Enchantments is going to be one. It's going to be really cool. It's going to be really cool. I think we're going to like it. So this is kind of my theory crafting idea for some aggressive, mid-range aggressive fairies that we can kind of hit off with a lot of things. Darkslick Source, Shipwreck, Martian, Underground River. Yeah, that's what we're going to do right there. So pretty much overall, pretty standard mana break right there. 2.2 average. We might only need 23 lands. We have 24, so we might be able to squeeze in an extra card or 2. Pretty even on blue-black. And I don't think it's a little hard on your rares. It is a lot of rares. No mythic rares. The one good thing about it is that the only ones that I would recommend being mythic, the rares that you're going to need from the new set, is probably Likeness Looter and Rankle's Prank. You don't really need the End if you don't want it. but I'm trying to make it a little easier in crafting some of this stuff as we go into it. It's not fully artisan, but a lot of the rares that we have are from the previous set. So hopefully that'll make it a little lighter on the wallet right there. Fairy Mastermind being one of them. But overall, you could adjust it and make it a little cheaper. I think Rankle's Prank and Likeness Looter are the only ones you're really going to need. Obera, of course, is an uncommon, as we said, so it should be pretty light in the wallet. That's my new Farron run right here. You can check it out in AetherHub. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think about it. What other decks do you want to see built tomorrow during early access? I'd love to know. I'm excited to get back into some Dimir that's not just Dimir Denial or Dimir, you know, board lock, basically. Nothing but counterspells and board wipes. I'm excited to get into some Dimir that's more card draw, that's more flyers, tricky stuff. A classic form of Dimir. I used to be a Dimir main. I used to play it a lot. So hope you like this one. Just a little theory crafting before tomorrow. Make sure you're there. Be there or be square. We got early access. I've been Jay Villain, and you've been great. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed.